Hi, I'm Josh, and when I turned 18, I got the best news of my life. I got into a nice college on a scholarship. I was the first one in my family to graduate high school. My parents were so proud of me. But when I got there, things weren't as great as I imagined. I worked as a student assistant so I could have my own money, and my classmates looked down on me because of it. Ew, he has to work while going to school? I know, right? That's rough. His parents must not love him enough. The only person I could really call my friend there was Brooke. Brooke was poor like me, and she was the only other person there who was on a scholarship. If Brooke was my favorite person there, Matt was the person I'd most likely not save if all three of us were on a boat and they both fell in the water. Matt was the rowing team captain and the bane of my existence. The moment we met, he complained to the dean. Why are we letting these outsiders into this hallowed institution? Scum like that deserve to be with their own kind. Matt went out of his way to make me realize I didn't belong there. I was often the butt of his jokes, and his jokes were mostly about how poor people suck. I think he's honestly obsessed with me. He'd even go as far to frequent the places I have a part-time job just so he could humiliate me or get me in trouble with my boss. One time, he shouted at me and made me take his risotto back to the kitchen 5 times. He kept saying he tasted sand in it, and he blamed me for that when I was just the waiter. He wasn't alone either. I got hired at the country club, and on my first day there, a girl snapped her fingers at me to get my attention. But then she recognized me. Oh my gosh, you're Josh, right? From school? I'm so sorry. I totally thought you were a waiter here. I am. Nino raised an eyebrow at me. You work? As a waiter? Here? I mean, don't you feel embarrassed? Half the school comes here. Some people gotta work. I don't know. I just think it cheapens the reputation of our school when its students are working menial jobs. You should really think about your choices. If I didn't have Brooke to talk about all these people, I would have lost my mind. Every day, I would look forward to eating lunch with her and talking smack about our privileged classmates and their first world problems. You know Rupert, right? The one who talks about skiing all the time? That one. He cried in front of our French class today. Literally sobbed because there was no snow in this one specific mountain in Africa, and they had a ski trip planned this weekend. I mean... And I guess Matt saw how close I was to Brooke. Maybe even saw that I had a crush on her. And that's why he put his claws in her. One day, I was happily hanging out with her. The next, she was Matt's obedient minion. She played me, led me on, and used me to gather information that Matt used against me. I shared stuff with her about my dad, about how he's been doing gigs outside of his job, and his work was really touchy about their employees having side hustles. And that got him fired when they found out. The company said they got an anonymous tip. To me, it wasn't anonymous at all. I knew Matt wanted me out of that school at all costs. I was so mad that when I saw Matt across from the quad, I ran up to him and pushed him against the wall. How much? I don't know what you're talking about, man. Help! He's attacking me! How much did you buy Brooke's soul for? Why? You want a payday too? Typical. Tell you what, if you fail all your classes, I'll give you 10 grand. Shove that money of yours down your own throat. You can't buy me. Soon I can, 'cause you won't be able to afford life with your dad unemployed. And he was right. I looked for yet another job, but nobody was hiring. I had to swallow my pride and take a job in a place that one of my classmates owned. Nina's Stables. Yeah, that same girl that insulted me for being a waiter. But money is money, and I would rather work for her than Matt. She was a terrible boss at first, and she was still judgy about me being poor. But when one of her horses was sick and I stayed the entire night to comfort it, that kinda bonded us. She saw me caring for Starburst, and we took turns to warm the poor girl. She insisted I go home when it got late, but I didn't want to leave that horse until she got better. She brought blankets for us and Starburst, and the warmth must have made us both fall asleep, 'cause when I woke up, she was using my shoulder as her pillow, and her face was so close to mine. She fluttered her eyes open, and when she realized what had happened, her face got all red, and she ran out of there without a word. The next time we talked, she was much nicer to me. You know that time when I said stuff about you being poor? I'm sorry. I realize now I was wrong. And, I've seen how hard you work. and I realized that some people need to work so much harder just to get the opportunities that kids like me get by default. So, I respect that. From that moment on, Nina and I became closer. But of course, Matt and his minions came and ruined that nice moment. Wow, fancy seeing you here, peasant. Didn't know you rode. Oh wait, I bet you work here. You really do get around a lot. Go away, Matt. Shush, Nina. The men are talking. Matt took out a checkbook and scribbled a bunch of words on it. He waved it in my face, dangling it like a carrot in front of a horse. You remember Brooke, don't you, Josh? Your ex-BFF? I'll give you 10 grand if you get on all fours and let her ride you like a pony. I don't know what came over me. Probably desperation. I had no money. Dad was out of a job. I figured if Brooke could sell her soul, I could at least use the money to help my parents. I got on all fours. But before Brooke could come anywhere close, Nina exploded with rage. She pushed Brooke away, took the check from Matt, and tore it into a million pieces. How dare you make fun of him? Josh is 10 times more the person than any of you are. You're all awful. He deserves the world. In fact, I love him, and I will be his servant from this day on. I will be his maid, because he is a king among men. It was so strange. Word of that spread across school, and I thought I'd be the laughingstock once more. But an even stranger thing happened. Nina was the queen bee, and whatever the queen did, the worker bees followed. All the other girls now suddenly wanted me. There were DMs and texts, and even in person, girls would just come up to me, offering to be my maid too. The best thing was, Matt's fan club was disbanded and those girls came to me. That was really satisfying to watch. The next time I saw Matt at the stables, there were no rabble of girls following him around. Even the staff there didn't greet him. Matt looked visibly annoyed by that, and he took out his frustration on Brooke. He had such a short fuse. When he saw me, he snapped his fingers at me. Hey, you peasant! I need a horse. Get me one, now! Nina's dad heard this, and he admonished Matt. You be careful how you talk to people, son, or I'll tell your father. What? He's just a stable boy. That there's my future son-in-law, and he's our new stable manager. Regardless, I prefer it if you spoke even to the stable boys with respect. Or I might just have to take away your membership here. Matt was so shocked at the news that he could only speak in grunts and single syllables. What? He's gonna marry? You're never gonna be able to make a complete sentence, so I'll do it for you. Yes, I'm gonna marry Nina soon. And by the way, now that your membership's been brought up, I've come across this list. I handed Matt a long piece of paper, and on it was the list of his unpaid debt to the stables. It seemed he'd been going every week, but had neglected to pay. I saw cold sweat form on his forehead. Matt pulled me aside and whispered, "Don't tell anyone, please." I handed the paper immediately to my future father-in-law, and he was aghast. From that, everything spiraled out of control for Matt. He tried to pay with his card, but it got declined thrice. We soon found out that we weren't the only place Matt's family owned a lot of money to. They were swimming in debt from everyone in town, and when everyone found this out, they were outraged. Matt's family was bankrupt, and they acted as if they were made of money. To pay for all of his debts, Matt had to work for no pay. Meanwhile, I was getting married to a lovely, gorgeous heiress. On our wedding day, we invited all our family and friends to the stables where we held a grand ceremony. Our favorite horses joined us on our special day. Even Matt and Brooke were there, as servers to our beautiful horses. They shoveled hay and made sure our babies were well fed. As Matt looked on and regretted his bad decisions, I kissed my new wife and toasted our bright future together.